A hollow cylindrical tube stands in your way. The light at the end of the tunnel becomes blocked by a figure that looks like you, same size. Your sense of smell quickly picks up on the sex of your soon-to-be opponent. Without wasting time, your instincts and reflexes propel you to move forward towards your opponent. Similarly, your same-sex opponent also starts moving forward. Halfway through the tube, you collide. You signal to your opponent to step back and let you continue on your path. They signal that you should take a step back. Your opponent's level of confidence exceeds yours for some reason. So you find yourself slowly retreating, moving backwards. You continue moving backwards as your opponent continues moving forward until you find yourself exiting the tube at the same point that you entered through. Unbeknownst to both of you, this is an experiment to which you have just become the loser and your opponent the winner. This was a test of social dominance, which carries a lot of information about you, about the outcome of your future social dominance tests, about your place in the social hierarchy, your level of aggressiveness, your timidity, etc. This experiment, called the social dominance test, is used to measure social hierarchy in rodents. For a long time, behaviorists adopted the black box conceptual model of studying animal behavior. This black box paradigm was simple: study the behavioral output from given input and draw conclusions about how the animal behaves and make predictions on how it is likely to behave in the future. As far as this framework was concerned, whatever was going on inside the brain of the animal was a black box and was dispensable in the predictive value and accuracy of the conclusions drawn from the experiment. Simply, behaviorists did not care what the animals felt.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Their emotional states, mental and psychological representation of the world or themselves. Simply assessing the behavior was reliable enough to generate a lot of data on rodent behavior and extrapolate it to human behaviors in some, if not most cases. Even with the technological advancement in the neurosciences, which made it possible to investigate emotions in the brain, some behaviorists still defended the black box paradigm, arguing that investigating the emotional states of the animals was unnecessary. Today, most black box investigations are performed in conjunction with other tests. For example, molecular analyses, brain imaging, or brain activation tests. In short, although less nuanced than peering into the brain to analyze neuronal behavior, the black box is still somewhat reliable. Which brings us to the problem of what it means to believe in something. If we adopt the black box paradigm with respect to human behaviors, then generally, beliefs should have corresponding behavioral outputs that validate them. In the test tube test above, we can at least expect to find that the winner feels more confident in their ability to subdue their opponent, while their opponent feels less confident in theirs. However, whatever the case is, we can conclude from observing their behavior that one rat is socially dominant over the other, regardless of their take on the issue. Human beliefs can, and maybe often should, be validated by the same method. However, given the sheer number of human beliefs and the difficulty of mapping each to their corresponding actions or behavior, the application of this method has its practical limits. Some cases require special or unnatural conditions for certain behaviors to manifest in the world. For instance, the statement, "I believe that Superman is stronger than Batman," would be very difficult to validate from simply analyzing one's behavior. Nonetheless, one can still feel and think this way without the burden of that belief manifesting in the world, until one is specifically tested.
We'll put their name to the test.
For example, when one is asked to bet on who the winner would be in a one-on-one fight between the two heroes, a person holding such a belief that Superman is stronger would be expected to put their money on Superman.
You don't understand. There's no time.
I understand.
What would it mean then when, instead of betting on Superman, the person bets on Batman while insisting that Superman is stronger? Other than parading active hypocrisy, what would this behavioral paradox be revealing about the psychological state of such an individual? We can expect that either the individual is lying.
He lied! Nobody wants to tell the truth.
In which case they would be consciously aware of their belief and would be deliberately acting out a self-contradiction. But what if the individual is not being deceptive and truly feels and consciously believes that Superman is stronger, despite their behavior demonstrating the contrary? Why would it be important to have one's actions and beliefs align in the first place? Before we can answer the question of how this asymmetry occurs or what it means, a case has to be made for the importance of our beliefs aligning with our behavior. Our bodies exist to act in the world. We sense and respond to the environment via sensory-motor interactions that lead to learning, adaptation, abstraction, navigation, problem solving, all meant to yield an overall increase in survival and promote thriving. For survival, reliability then is a fundamental tool. Reliability improves almost every facet of one's life. For example, the tools you use, the food outlets you visit, the pharmacies you go to, your friends, your family, the company that employs you, your doctors and health experts, your news outlets, your media sources, and even your entertainment. A significant decrease in reliability in any of these avenues is often unpleasant and, depending on the severity, can lead to stress and/or depression, lowering the quality of one's life. Therefore, the more reliable the external world is, the more one is able to predict and get the outcomes they want and need from their environment. In addition to a reliable environment, self-reliability is crucial and is a pillar for mental well-being, meaning, and life fulfillment. Imagine you believe yourself to be a productive person who is good at planning, yet at every turn you find yourself missing deadlines, not getting enough done, and not completing your to-do list the majority of the time. This belief is not innocuous. This incongruence of belief behavior often results in the least preferred outcomes, which can be very unpleasant. A daily accumulation of disappointment, unaccountability, and a progressive loss in self-confidence accompanies such events. Done frequently enough, you end up becoming your own traitor. Your skepticism about your own abilities turns to cynicism, which leads to always looking for a scapegoat for each one of your failures. This psychological destabilization can be a significant factor for a stressful life. Let us imagine two people in a room. One describes themselves as an alcoholic, while the other describes themselves as not being addicted to alcohol. Now let us imagine that when probed, each individual eventually reveals that they drink a can of their preferred beer every single day after work. Whom among these two individuals is acting out their belief? Given the different definitions of alcoholism, we can safely settle on the one that simply describes an alcoholic as someone who is psychologically addicted to drinking. Let us imagine that their bodies are not physiologically addicted to the substance yet.
You love to booze, don't you? You love to drink.
I do.
You booze till you snooze.
Dude, let me tell you something. I will never quit drinking. I will never quit drinking. I will always make sure that I can keep my body healthy enough so that I can always drink. I love
Drinking every day would align with the definition of a psychological addiction or psychological urge to drink. As such, from a behavioral perspective, the one who believes themselves to be an alcoholic would be closer to the truth. Now let us consider the case of the one who does not identify as an alcohol addict and who believes themselves to just be a casual drinker. Let us imagine they drink every day simply because they want to, or because it calms them down, or for whatever reason. They believe they can stop whenever they want to, since their body is not physically addicted to the substance. They just indulge for indulgence sake. What would be wrong with that? Would that be so bad? Why would such a person need to identify themselves as an alcoholic, given that they know and feel that they can stop whenever they want to? We can get a sense of the answer to these questions if we pose another question. Why drink every day in the first place? The urge and need to do this every day cannot be explained away to mere preference or happy indulgence. It is highly likely that there are a lot of casual drinkers who get the urge to drink every day, but are able to resist and go days or even weeks without drinking. It would be very difficult then to define them as alcoholics. The cycle involving the underlying motivation to drink, followed by the act itself, when done consistently, is the definition of addiction. Using the belief-behavior framework, or the Blackbox Paradigm, the reasons for the motivation are secondary. To support this framework, one only needs to take a look at how the language around addiction is commonly used in society. A person who has been addicted to drugs for 5 years will be called and will likely see themselves as a drug addict. However, it is only after one has stopped doing drugs that they will stop being referred to as a drug addict. Prefixes will evolve from recovering drug addict to recovered drug addict to clean to used to be drug addict. As the days change to weeks, and as the weeks change to months, and as the months change to years, the word addict no longer applies, even in such cases where the cravings and urges persist well past a few weeks or months. What goes on inside the brain and body of the individual is a black box. A relapse into such habits, such that an individual is consistently using again, re-identifies them as an addict until they quit again for a considerable amount of time. The action is the determining factor. It need not matter whether the outcome is positive or negative. Beliefs are better when they are congruent with behavior. Now let us consider the case of two individuals who go to the gym for an hour every day. And when asked about how they feel about the gym, one of them states that they hate the gym, while the other one states that they love the gym. And when asked about taking days off, they both report that they feel stressed when they miss out on the gym for a couple of days or weeks. From simply observing their gym logs, one can safely conclude that for both these individuals, the stress of not going to the gym far exceeds whatever stress they have going there. A disagreement from either one of them is more likely a sign of self-delusion or lack of self-awareness, none of which are desirable. The alignment of the belief-behavior framework reduces complexity and simplifies the world. There are considerable benefits to this. it can be beneficial to individuals who have a negative view of themselves despite lack of evidence from their behavior. For example, the negative psychological and emotional impact of seeing oneself as an addict of any sort, despite behavior or action saying otherwise, can greatly be reduced by adopting this framework. A lack of self-respect or self-confidence can be pragmatically corrected by performing actions that one admires or respects. Lacking personality traits of this sort can be pursued by progressively accumulating actions that validate their existence, thus transforming the individual's identity and improving the way they see and feel about themselves. It can also be helpful in revealing some of our self-delusions and help us identify our blind spots. For example, an individual who sees themselves as a great person only has to look at whether there is any evidence of greatness in their behavior or actions. Greatness that only resides in the head is difficult to separate from delusions of grandeur. It is easier then, when one adopts this framework, to start spotting individuals who are true to their beliefs and those who aren't, either through sheer hypocrisy, self-delusion, or moral failure. Caution for charismatic individuals and leaders becomes a protective instinct that raises its horns every time such individuals profess a belief that sounds pleasant to the ear. Seductive words become weightless when the behavior that validates them is lacking. As such, phony celebrities lose their appeal, fake pastors and priests lose their aura, dishonest institutions lose their credibility, etc. Let us continue this discussion in a much later video, where we will be using this framework to try to validate or cast a skeptical eye on the validity of some popular beliefs from some popular people. We'll also explore the limits and possible dangers of adopting this framework. Until then, bloggers musings, adding value, one essay at a time.